Hello and welcome to the Pod Well Travelled. I'm Stephen Scourfield, the travel editor here at 7 West Media, based in Perth, Western Australia. And it's a bit like the Beatles today. The old team's back together, the band's back together. We have Will Yeoman with us. Will's sort of been a travel writer with us for a long time and then has left fairly recently to become Chief Executive of Writing WA. Will, back in town.
Yeah, look, it feels really good.
Yeah, it's great to have you.
It's almost like I'd never left.
It's like having John Lennon back. It's just
I can see the parallels very clearly.
And George Harrison, better known as Mogens Johansen, travel writer, photographer extraordinaire, is here as well. Yeah. So it's like having the old band together. Well, let's start with you, Will. Thanks for joining us this morning. And it's a it's a kind of crossover subject for you. It's a book that you've reviewed for us. I mean, as I say, you can leave the team, but you can't leave the family.
No. It's like Hotel California. You can check in, but you never leave.
You never leave. So, just tell us about this new book.
Yeah, look, I was really delighted to get the opportunity to review this book for you guys. Best Walks of Southwest WA by Mark Pybus, and it's published by Woods Lane Press. So they do these really smart little guides, usually, and this one in particular I just found so terrific because it's compact. It's got lots of great photographs. The prose is very descriptive, but it's really tight. But most importantly, it's got these like 40 walks, okay? And they're all clearly numbered, and they go right through the southwest, and they go, so you start from Mandurah and dwelling up, and you go right down to Northcliffe, okay? And sort of almost everything in between. 40 walks, which is amazing. And each one you get a large overview map at the beginning, and then for each walk you get a small map numbered, and then he actually goes through it and describes, okay, so you walk here, turn left, do this, but not to a ridiculous extent. And then he points out historical or natural sort of highlights as well. Right. And if there are visitor centres around, there's lots of useful information like that at the back of the book.
So this is not the Bibbulmun track. These are more regional, defined walks.
No, sorry, you're absolutely right. So if I might try and call up one in a moment. Just to be clear, I'm actually working from the PDF copy. I didn't get a hard copy of the book yet. I'm still waiting on that. But he really gets into things like making sure you know the route, the safety, what the best time of the year is to tackle these walks, and the level of difficulty, which I'm sure is something that a lot of people will be really interested
in.
Easy, medium, hard. Really leaving nothing that could surprise you, So Ambergate Reserve is one, for example. If I pull, that's just random pick, easy, hour and a half should take you, 4.1 kilometres circuit, 41 metre ascent, descent, so you even get the variations in height. Conditions, compacted gravel, sand trail, best from winter through to late spring. Lots of great pictures, how to find the track. Everything.
Nice to have suggestions. We always need that, don't we? Mogens is a keen walker. Jump in here.
Yeah. I mean, it's terrific that I assume they're all different lengths and difficulties, I guess.
They are, but my sense is that they stay within the realms of people who are not like seasoned hikers, for example. So it's very accessible. So anyone could use this book. I know Spunker Bay Loop, which will be familiar to you guys. That's just come up on the screen as well.
Do they sort of connect as well, or is it sort of they're purely sort of standalone walks, if I can put it that way?
Well, the way they've presented them as standalone walks, but for people who do know all these trails will see they probably do interconnect, and I'm guessing you could assemble them to make a larger experience. Even if they didn't connect immediately, it'd be pretty short distance between them, considering he treats each area discreetly as a separate section.
Sounds terrific.
Yeah, it's really good.
So if you're down south and you've got a few days to spare, you can dip in and dip out as you please.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And as I say, I haven't got the hard copy yet, but I get the sense it's reasonably compact, reasonably small book that's easy to carry around with you.
Well, it's interesting you mention that because I'm looking, Will, on the table here. You've got a stack of books that have come in, obviously addressed to you here still at the West Australian.
Indeed. This is as you just jokingly said, this is my PO box.
Yeah, PO box, West Australian. But we're still seeing a lot of books published, obviously, in paper form. Tell us the state of that.
This is really interesting. If you go back all those years ago now, it feels like a century ago, doesn't it? Where they were all sort of decrying the the death of the book because of the rise of Kindle and all the e-books and so forth, and it never happened, did it? And it's strange that someone like me, who's not exactly young, probably reads more ebooks than anyone else I know. Everyone is buying, the physical copies.
Yeah, it's interesting. Ebooks and audiobooks, of course.
I use Audible as well, so I'm a very keen consumer of Audible books, and obviously podcasts.
And yet print books are still there.
Massive. Look, I had a chat to the guys at Boffin's Books in the city just last week, and I said, "How are you going? How are sales going?" They said, "Look, never been better." And the thing about those bookshops, and you'll get this from a travel perspective too, people just love to go in there and just walk around and browse and see what they might discover in a way that you can't really browse online. It's not the same thing.
Yeah, well, I mean, we relate to this, the three of us relate to this with what we do, what we still do in print, that print for us is still blockbuster for travel.
Absolutely.
Saturday and Sunday, I mean, we started Sunday travel during the pandemic.
Yes.
And it's a solid 24 pages a week, which is what Saturday used to be.
So again, what do you put that down to? Is that a similar kind of aesthetic? Do people just love to read things?
Yeah, and we're seeing growth, particularly on Sunday. We're seeing growth in the younger readership.
Right.
Honestly, if you'd asked me 10 years ago, I'd have said it was all done and dusted.
It kind of defies the early trends, doesn't it?
It does.
You couldn't have seen that coming, and not in the way it is.
And we do deal with, media buyers and clients, people who place advertising.
Yeah.
And even, the young set in media buying and in the advertising world recognise that print is a perfect marketplace. Everyone comes to buy, everyone comes to sell in the same place.
Absolutely.
So,
it's definitely a lot of parallels there.
So I'm very gratified to see that stack of books. We can have them delivered to your house if you like.
Actually, could you deliver them to the office? State Library, care of State Library. I'd very much appreciate that.
Will, can I just ask back on the book there?
Absolutely.
Is there, for those who may want to sort of keep it on their phones and that sort of stuff for when they're hiking around, is there sort of links to maps, or is there anything like that?
No, this is very much a old school guide.
Yeah.
But as far as I'm concerned, it's probably got everything you need. But yeah, if you want to go and explore further, then I think it's a fairly straightforward process to go online and just use.
Yeah, I mean, there's Trails WA, for example,
exactly
have very good maps that you can track your location and so on.
In fact, Mark does have a website as well, which is kind of not directly related to the book, but he's a guy that's very much into hiking and different walks and so forth.
Great.
Look, let's move on, because I'm going to try and find that link for you, so I'll come back to that. I just need to move around.
Do that, because Mogens has sort of dragged us almost into technology.
almost into the 21st century.
Asking about, So you've been flying a new drone.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get the opportunity to fly the new Mavic 3 Pro, it's called. And I've had a drone for a while now, and I really like it. It's a good sort of addition to the camera kit I have, and it gives you the opportunity to take a different perspective of various assignments, and also just for private use. It's a fun thing to do, and so I've really enjoyed it. But the one thing I've missed with the drone is the fact that I only have the one lens. So you don't get you can do the digital zoom where you sort of pinch in a bit and you lose a bit of quality and that sort of stuff, but you don't get that compression you get, for example, from a telephoto lens. And this new drone has got 3 cameras. So it's got the standard lens, 3 times zoom, or 3 times telephoto lens, and 7 times telephoto lens. Okay. So it's actually, it gives you a lot of scope.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, the main camera on this particular, it functions pretty much like a smartphone, should I say? So you have a main camera and then 2 lesser ones, I guess, if I can put it that way. But the main camera is a collaboration with Hasselblad, the sort of famed Swedish camera manufacturer, and it has a micro four thirds sensor, so quite a large sensor in a drone. I mean, it's another step up. So the quality is, exceptional, and it can, take up to 48 megapixel stills. It can shoot video up to 5.1K at 30 frames per second. So it's a pretty amazing machine. It's a bit bigger than the one I have. I've got one which is called the Air 2S, which is like a sort of, it's not like the super compact drones, but sort of kind of in between. And I find that's a good size for traveling, in particular if you go overseas. It's not too big to put in the bag alongside your camera kit. But this one is perhaps just that little bit bigger.
I've got the Mavic 2 Pro, which is it must be physically similar size.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, and that's great if you're travelling around WA here. And
you're right, but it is a bag full.
The batteries are bigger. You obviously get more flying time, but they add weight and bulk. So, as a travel drone, if you're looking for something to throw in the bag when you head overseas and that sort of stuff, it's probably a little big.
The Air is better for that.
Yeah. But it does give you some amazing. It
sounds like
quality.
Really stepped up the lenses.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I want one.
And it flies well. It lands pretty fast, I hear.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it took me a little while just to get used to it, because my drone, because it's a lot lighter, when you sort of take your hands off the controls, if I can put it that way, it stops. This one, because of the weight, it actually carries on a little further. So it's sort of, you got to be a little bit more careful with how you fly
how
it.
you land it.
But having said that, they like most drones, they have sensors that will stop the drone if it's going to crash into something, or it can even fly around obstacles and so on. So it's pretty safe, and you got lots of scope for turning these things on or off, for example. So
well, you've done a comprehensive job on that, and you've also included with that story, which is in print week after next, which is July the 8th, but also will be online at thewest.com.au/travel. But you've also included all the rules and the drone rules, which are
I think that's
you've simplified that.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing about owning a drone, is that you do need to be mindful of other people, and you need to register the drone, Stephen, and there's a whole range of things. I mean, a lot of it is common sense. Don't fly it over big crowds of people, and you have to be 15 meters away from other people when you launch the drone, and so on. So there's a lot of things that you need to know, and so in this included in this story, we've included parts of CASA's rules and regulations about do's and don'ts.
Yep.
Yeah,
very
which
helpful.
Is quite
I know
helpful.
You're looking at me. Yeah, look, very helpful.
Yeah.
So you get the sense now that the novelty has worn off. The drone is very much just a standard piece of kit that you would use. Because particularly when you look at watching television, for example, a film, there's not one show I've seen where they haven't used a drone in some way or another.
That's right.
Is that the same with photographers?
I think it's a bit. You're sorry to jump in.
That's okay.
Bones, but I think it's a bit like with the books. You go, well, you'd think that e-books and then audio books have replaced print books, but they haven't. It's just more, and the drone hasn't replaced cameras or anything. It's just more, and we're all using our phones and our cameras and our drones, and you just add another
it's another tool,
technique, another tool into the toolbox. And I like them. I like the drone for not the big high overhead stuff, but like group shots, and where you've got the family or something.
This gives
together.
you a little bit more height, doesn't it?
Yeah, and you can. It's just beyond your normal reach, and I kind of like that. So it might be 3 or 4 meters up and just kind of in front of you. And it's great. I find it's great for portraits and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I like all that.
Yeah, and in particular this new one, the 3 Pro, with the different lenses,
Yeah,
it's a real game changer, I think, as far as drones are concerned.
Yeah.
And it's, this is at the higher end of the price range. If I can
So
put
I
it
was
that
going to
way.
ask you. So what's
So
it
you're
cost me
looking
to
at
change
just
from a 2 to a 3?
over 4,000. Just a tad over
outrageous.
4,000.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
that's the Fly More kit. So so that comes with 3 batteries.
Yeah. But
the
doubt, if anyone's listening, have no doubt that you need
Oh,
a
absolutely.
lot of batteries. These things get
Yeah.
through batteries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although this one will give you sort of up to 45 minutes
Oh, will it?
flying, so which is
Well,
pretty
the
good.
two's like really 25, I suppose.
Yeah, so this is pretty good.
Yeah,
But it so this Fly More combo comes with the batteries. It comes with neutral density filters, which is particularly useful for video and that sort of stuff. And there's some spare propellers and various other.
We keep
bits
laughing
and
because
pieces.
Mogens has chipped one of the propellers with a very fast landing, as we understand.
Yeah.
Who turns the sensors off? That's
Oh,
why
well,
that's why they have
it was
sensors.
because I'd been flying it around the house and I felt it kept beeping at
chasing
me.
the dog. Oh dear.
Yeah.
Now, Mogens, as we have a colleague here who's, as I say, Chief Executive of Writing WA, I thought I'd bring up one of your written pieces, which is very important. We just published a piece which is also online at thewest.com.au. The sort of loneliness of the travel writer, or the those.
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether you were going to like that, but
I loved it, because it is an aspect of the work, that just to set the scene. Mogens was away in Singapore and in Cambodia, primarily Siem Reap, which was a project that we'd sort of cooked up and partnered with Singapore Airlines because we liked the idea of double destinations. And Mogens wrote a piece because, he was travelling on his own, as we mostly do. And I call it a honeymoon for one when I walk into a big room, but you obviously had a different reaction to being
it was,
just a little moment. So tell us about the story first.
Okay, so I'm just to set the scene. I'm in this amazing wilderness resort in the Cambodian jungle, some miles from everywhere, and it's a magnificent place. They're they're self-contained luxury tents, perched out over a riverbed, and there's waterfalls cascading below and all that sort of stuff. It's a magnificent location. The tents has got everything you could possibly want, including an unlimited minibar, and maybe that's what sparked this. I'm not quite sure, but anyway, so and the other thing about these tents is that they're quite isolated. So I was at the furthest tent away from the main headquarters.
Yes,
which
that's
they call it.
understandable.
Yeah, I know. But they so it's quite it's not like you can just sort of. It took me 15 minutes to walk to headquarters, and it's sort of, it's a night scramble sort of along a gravel path sort of thing. And anyway, so I'm sitting, I was doing a bit of writing and, sitting there writing away and I'm coming up with all these magnificent things about this place, but I've got no one to share it with. I'm here all by myself. I can't sort of just nip down to the restaurant or the bar and have a chat to someone and that sort of stuff. You're in this sort of environment and it's fantastic. You got everything you could possibly want except someone to share it with.
That's fascinating.
You see, I mean, just Jeremy, I use that as a technique because for me the share is with the reader.
Yeah, well, I made that point in the story.
Which is what the point you made in the story is that the person that you tell is the reader, and that comes through, I think, when you read it on the page in first person present tense because you're talking to me, in that moment. This is something, Will, that apart from the information that we put through in the pages, this interpretation, this emotion, it's a great venue in mass media, and it's something that you really teach very well as well with you have with us, and you will be in future with us, but also through Writing WA, is this distilling of the moment and putting it down in words, Can you learn that?
Yeah. First of all, I'm not sure about teaching it very well, but I do try,
Well,
as
you
we
do.
all do. Well, thank you. Can you learn that? Look, as you guys know, technique can always be learnt, but art can't be learnt. Art has to be innate.
I'm going to have to write
Does
that
make
down and
sense?
think about it. Hold on.
Well, you know what I mean. Like
Yeah.
there are certain people who just, I don't know whether it's through genes or through their background, but they just have this ability to create something special that it's very difficult to teach that. All you can do is equip people with the tools necessary to allow that to come out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
I get it.
I understand what you're saying, and I think what you guys do is, and what I used to try to do in the past is brilliant, because we, as travel writers, we are telling a story to a reader, but it is more about the art than, say, what the guys down the other end of this open plan office do in the news, on the news desk. They just want to get the information out as quickly and as efficiently as possible. For us, it's something different.
Yeah.
But you still want that information. Above all, you have to give the reader practical
Yeah.
information, don't you?
It is a blend.
So it's that balance. It's that art is in that balance, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like the story of Mogens because it sat alongside a story which told us all about the
Yeah,
place.
so it
And then
didn't
it was your
have
reaction.
It was free from that
Yeah.
need to relate anything,
Yeah.
because you already had that next to it, didn't you? So
Well, it was pretty needy, actually, Will. But no, it was great. I loved the way that you just let your emotion. You shared that emotion. You shared that moment with the readers.
Yeah, it
It's-
was essentially sharing it with the
It
readers.
is.
Yeah,
It is because
absolutely.
we expect the readers trust us, and we're open with them. So that was I thought it was a great moment.
And you're right, that
Now-
enthusiasm and energy, though, that's what you want to capture in any piece, hopefully.
Yeah,
And if you're really feeling that, like you obviously were,
Mm.
as you said, that comes through.
it comes through, and
In
it
the
brings me to
writing.
another point, Will, which is
Yeah.
every year for some years now. Goodness, I think 3 or maybe it's even 4. We've done the New Norcia retreat, Readers Weekend. Mogens does photography and flies the drone, which connects that bit of our conversation. Will teaches, runs a writing course, and without naming the person, over the last couple of weeks I've run 3 stories from someone who was on that course with you, and I absolutely see what you taught them. I see the benefits for them in doing that course, and that was actually a couple of years ago, and I think it's just slowly percolated through, but it's come through, and now you've developed someone who's really contributing to the pages.
Isn't
so
that interesting?
yeah, you absolutely
that's really
do
good to know, isn't it?
I can see you in that work.
So
as
maybe
much as I can see.
maybe in some ways we are playing the long game.
We are.
You're
We are
planting the
playing.
seeds, but they might take a little bit of time to grow. But
Yes,
once they do,
exactly right. Which, sorry, you've just linked up to another thing. I'm reading the book of Forgiving by Desmond Tutu at the moment.
oh, okay, right.
And talking about planting seeds is one of his analogies he uses a lot, is to plant seeds for the next crop, sort of thing. So you've connected another book there.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because that whole idea, and it's so much a part of writing too. Sometimes certain stories can be done like that, and other times they just take a little while to percolate. And I think there's still this sort of, isn't there in our society, there's still everything has to be done now. We want everything instantly.
Yeah.
And you often don't get that opportunity, do you, to let things just grow
You don't.
naturally?
Exactly right.
And I think one thing you've taught me, Stephen, is sometimes you're sort of stuck to get started with something, and you often say just start writing.
typing. Just start typing.
Start typing.
right.
Just start typing.
And once you do
See what
that,
comes
things
out.
just happen somehow. It does.
Yeah.
For me, anyway,
Yeah.
it doesn't always sort of start off or finish the way it started off, but because you actually just start typing, start writing down that story or your experience, even sort of cataloguing it, it's sort of you make a start then, and that's it.
Absolutely. Actually, I was just reading the other day, Isaac Asimov's, I think it's 5 or 6 rules, 6 laws of writing. He was some kind of biochemist as well as a famous sci-fi author. First rule, write.
Yeah. Well,
That's it, actually write,
a fantastic former colleague of ours, Tony Barras, once asked
Yeah.
me, how do you get all these books published? I said, well, first you've got to write. And he said, yeah, well, that's too hard, mate. And walked away.
Oh,
There
it's
is that
brilliant
aspect.
though. You're right, yeah.
Well,
Just do the
crew,
work.
I think the thought of Mogens with his minibar, I think he's moved from George Harrison to Ringo Starr. John Lennon's very much John Lennon. Great to have the band back together.
Yeah,
Thanks
look,
for coming in, Will.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And look, we
Been
should do
good
this
to see
again.
you.
We should.
Don't feel you've got to buy us all coffee.
I'm not going to.
Okay, it's my shout. Thanks, Mogens.
My pleasure.
Now, the stories that we've been talking about, everything we do is published in Saturday Travel in the West Australian. It's published in Sunday Travel in the Sunday Times here in Perth in Western Australia. It's online at thewest.com.au/travel. And also we've got content at westtravelclub.com.au. If you go to that website and become a registered member, which is free, you'll also receive eTravel Digital Edition, which comes to the inbox on Wednesday and is full of other stuff and all sorts of fun. The events that we've got coming up, which we're just about to launch quite a series of things. So by all means sign up for that. Regular readers might know that we always launch events and tours first in eTravel on a Wednesday. So if you sign up at westtravelclub.com.au/join, you'll get that first. We recently launched our 3 coach days there, and they were full by the time we got to print. So jump on that. Thanks, guys. Coffee time.
Sorry,
Thank
before
you.
that,
Oh,
I did
Will.
promise.
Will,
listeners,
you did.
listeners, and now I'm going to make good on that promise.
You're watertight, Will.
That website. So first of all, to clarify, Woods Lane Press specialises in Woods Lane walking guides. This is the latest in their series of walking guides. So Mark Pybus has got his own trails website. It's called The Life of Pi. Quite wishly. P-Y. P-Y.
P-Y.
As in Pybus,
Of
yeah.
course. Okay.
So thelifeofpi.com. And he also co-hosts the Real Trail Talk podcast. So there you go. And he's on the board of Hike West.
Perfect. There you go.
So there you are.
He's an easy man to find.
Okay, now it's coffee o'clock.
Thanks, guys. See you
Thank
next
you.
week.